Imagine living with a ticking time bomb inside your body, silent, invisible, and ready to go off at any moment. That's the harsh reality for millions of people living with high blood pressure without even knowing it. And you might be one of them. The most alarming part? It rarely shows symptoms but is behind half of all heart attacks and strokes. That's why it's often called the silent killer. Here's a startling fact. According to the World Health Organization, more than 1 billion people worldwide have hypertension. That's nearly 1 in 8 humans on Earth. And the most frustrating part? A large portion of these cases could be prevented or controlled without medication, simply through lifestyle changes. Before we move on, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It not only helps us reach more people with life-saving information like this, but it might literally save someone's life. Someone close to you could be silently suffering from high blood pressure, and one click might make all the difference. Let's start by understanding what's at stake. Blood pressure is the force your blood exerts against the walls of your arteries as it flows through your body. It rises when the heart contracts, systolic pressure, and falls when the heart relaxes, diastolic pressure. The problem begins when this pressure remains high over time. Eventually, blood vessels harden, narrow, and the risk of life-threatening events rises dramatically. But what silently pushes this pressure up inside the body? The answer is multifactorial: salty diets, inactivity, excess weight, chronic stress, poor sleep, too much alcohol, and even just aging. But here's the good news: all of these are modifiable, and you can start changing them today. Let's talk food. It's no secret that what we put on our plates largely defines our health. But there's a specific diet, backed by dozens of scientific studies, that consistently proves its effectiveness in lowering blood pressure: the DASH diet. That stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, and it emphasizes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean protein, and low-fat dairy. But the real magic comes not just from what you eat, but what you avoid: salt, processed food, and excessive saturated fats. One important data point comes from a study in the New England Journal of Medicine, which found that people who followed the DASH diet closely lowered their systolic blood pressure by up to 11 points. A result comparable to some medications. Now let's talk salt. Sodium is hands down the biggest villain in the high blood pressure story. Too much sodium causes your body to retain water, which increases blood volume and, in turn, pressure on the vessel walls. The trap? Most people have no idea how much they consume. On average, 80% of sodium intake comes from processed foods, things like sauces, deli meats, salty snacks, and soup cubes. The WHO recommends no more than 2 grams of sodium per day, which is about 5 grams of table salt. To put that into perspective, a single fast food sandwich can easily exceed that limit. Now imagine how that adds up across a day. But it's not just about cutting sodium, it's also about balancing it with another essential mineral: potassium. Potassium acts like a counterbalance to sodium. While sodium causes your vessels to constrict, potassium helps them relax. It also helps the kidneys flush out excess sodium through urine. Bananas, oranges, sweet potatoes, avocados, beans, and spinach are all potassium-rich. One study published in the American Journal of Hypertension found that increasing potassium intake by just 1,000 milligrams per day could reduce blood pressure by up to 5 points. Even better, combining low sodium with high potassium has a synergistic effect. Each enhances the other's benefits. Important note: if you have kidney problems or take medications that raise potassium levels, like certain diuretics, talk to your doctor before making dietary changes. Now, let's talk about exercise. If you think cardio is the only way to lower blood pressure, think again. A 2023 meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which reviewed over 270 studies, found something surprising. Isometric exercises, like planks or wall sits, were the most effective for lowering systolic blood pressure. That's right. Simple, static movements may outperform your daily jog. That doesn't mean you should give up cardio or strength training. The key is regular movement. Physical inactivity is a known risk factor, and any movement is better than none. Even 30-minute daily walks can have a significant impact. Another powerful, but often overlooked, factor is weight. Excess weight increases vascular resistance, meaning your heart has to work harder to push blood through. Losing just 5% of your body weight can significantly lower your blood pressure. For example, if you weigh 200 pounds, dropping just 10 pounds can make a meaningful difference. Now let's discuss alcohol. While it may feel relaxing in the moment, alcohol directly affects blood pressure. It stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, raises heart rate, and constricts blood vessels. Drinking more than 2 drinks per day significantly increases your risk of hypertension. And smoking? No surprise here. Nicotine is a potent vasoconstrictor. It tightens the blood vessels almost instantly. Smoking also damages the endothelium, the inner lining of your arteries, reducing nitric oxide production and making vessels stiffer over time. It's a dangerous double hit for your heart. Let's now focus on one of the most underrated influences: sleep. Sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night increases your risk of high blood pressure by up to 37%, according to Harvard Medical School. And even if you're sleeping 8 hours, you might not be safe. Obstructive sleep apnea, a disorder where breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep, is a major contributor to resistant hypertension. If you wake up tired, have morning headaches, or your partner reports loud snoring followed by gasping, it's time to see a doctor. Sleep apnea doesn't just affect rest. It puts your heart under constant nighttime stress. What about stress itself? While acute stress can spike your blood pressure temporarily, chronic stress has more subtle effects. It keeps your body in a constant state of tension, elevating cortisol and adrenaline levels, which increase heart rate and constrict blood vessels. It also leads to poor lifestyle choices, overeating, drinking, smoking, that further worsen your blood pressure. Now here's a fascinating twist. Studies show that pet owners, especially dog owners, tend to have lower blood pressure. A study by the American Heart Association found that dog ownership reduced stress levels and cardiovascular risk. Interacting with pets releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which slows your heart rate and promotes relaxation. Another crucial point is hydration. Your blood is mostly water. When you're dehydrated, your blood volume drops, forcing your heart to pump harder to circulate what remains. This increases pressure. So staying well hydrated, especially in hot weather or during exercise, is a simple but powerful way to support healthy blood pressure. Now let's talk about something more technical, yet essential: arterial stiffness. As we age, and especially if we lead unhealthy lifestyles, our arteries become less flexible. They lose their ability to expand and contract with each heartbeat, which forces the heart to work harder. This condition can be measured by a test called pulse wave velocity and is one of the strongest predictors of cardiovascular events. Can this be reversed? Partially. Lifestyle changes, such as regular aerobic activity and a diet rich in anti-inflammatory, antioxidant-rich foods, can improve vascular elasticity. Foods like extra virgin olive oil, berries, green tea, turmeric, and garlic are all beneficial in this process. And let's not forget about low-grade chronic inflammation. This is one of the most silent yet destructive forces driving up blood pressure over time. Chronic inflammation damages the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, reducing its ability to produce nitric oxide, which normally helps keep vessels relaxed and open. Without enough nitric oxide, your vessels remain constricted, pushing blood pressure even higher. This inflammation is fueled by poor diet, obesity, insulin resistance, and even prolonged exposure to pollution or emotional stress. Reducing this type of hidden inflammation calls for an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, a natural diet, regular movement, quality sleep, and stress control. One emerging strategy is intermittent fasting. Studies have shown that it lowers inflammation markers and improves insulin sensitivity, both of which contribute to better blood pressure. A cell metabolism study demonstrated that participants who practiced time-restricted eating within an 8-hour window daily, had significant reductions in blood pressure over a 12-week period. Now for a lesser-known but powerful factor: vitamin D levels. Research published in the Journal of Hypertension indicates that low vitamin D is linked to overactivation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, a hormonal system that controls blood pressure. People with vitamin D deficiency are at greater risk for developing hypertension. This doesn't mean everyone should take supplements, but maintaining adequate vitamin D through sunlight and diet is a smart strategy. Let's talk about something even more overlooked: psychosocial health. Loneliness, depression, anxiety, all of these can trigger physiological changes that affect your cardiovascular system. Studies on older adults show that social isolation is strongly linked to higher blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease. We are social beings. Positive relationships, friendships, and emotional support serve as a natural buffer against chronic stress and cardiovascular strain. And here's a surprisingly effective technique: slow, controlled breathing. Breathing exercises like diaphragmatic breathing or mindfulness-based practices have been shown to lower blood pressure in people with mild to moderate hypertension. A study in hypertension research found that just 15 minutes a day of guided breathing at 6 breaths per minute reduced systolic pressure by up to 10 millimeters of mercury in some participants. Another area to consider is stimulants. Caffeine in coffee, black tea, soda, or energy drinks can raise your blood pressure temporarily, especially if you're sensitive to it. While moderate coffee consumption isn't harmful for most people, excessive intake can silently push your pressure up. It's important to listen to your body. If you feel jittery, anxious, or notice a pressure spike after drinking coffee, consider cutting back. Now, here's where the tension builds. Some people do everything right: eat healthy, exercise, sleep well, and still have high blood pressure. How is that possible? The answer may lie in genetics. Certain gene polymorphisms affecting cardiovascular regulation can make some individuals more prone to hypertension, even with an ideal lifestyle. But this isn't a life sentence. Epigenetics, the science of how lifestyle affects gene expression, shows that you can influence how your genes behave. In other words, even with a genetic predisposition, your choices still matter. This brings us to personalized medicine. Each person responds differently to interventions. What works for one may not work for another. That's why regular medical checkups, lab tests, and tailored treatment plans are so important. Speaking of checkups, accurate blood pressure measurement is crucial. It should be done while seated, at rest, with your arm at heart level. Avoid measuring after physical exertion, caffeine, or during stress. Home monitoring is often more accurate than in-office readings. Ever heard of white coat hypertension? That's when your pressure spikes in the doctor's office due to anxiety. There's also the opposite: masked hypertension, normal readings at the clinic, but high at home. Both conditions require attention. Now, one of the most pivotal questions: what's the ideal blood pressure target? For years, 140 to 90 was the goal. But the groundbreaking SPRINT study, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, compared two groups, one aiming for a systolic pressure below 140, the other below 120. The lower pressure group had 25% fewer cardiovascular events and 27% lower overall mortality. However, there were some side effects, such as dizziness and kidney issues, reminding us that aggressive targets should be personalized and closely monitored. At this point, you may be wondering, what if I do all this and my pressure still stays high? The truth is, there's no shame in using medication. In many cases, it's necessary. But here's the key: when medications are combined with healthy habits, the required dosages are usually lower and side effects are minimized. Lifestyle is the foundation, medication is the tool. And if there's one message that should stick with you, it's this: small, sustainable changes are powerful. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Just take one step. Maybe it's reducing your salt intake, or starting a daily walk, or sleeping 30 minutes longer, or adopting a dog, or simply breathing deeply for 5 minutes every morning. These small acts, compounded over time, transform your biology. Hypertension might feel inevitable, but it's not a sentence. It's a wake-up call, a nudge to take care of yourself, to change what's within your control, and accept, with wisdom, what isn't. Your heart is the engine of your life. It beats over 100,000 times a day, silent, tireless, loyal. It deserves your attention. If you've made it this far, it shows you're serious about your health. Now it's time to take action. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Share this with someone who might be going through the same issue. Sometimes, one piece of information can save a life. Leave a comment below and tell us which of these changes you're going to start today. Remember, it's not about how big the step is. It's about taking the first one. Your heart deserves that care. I'll see you in the next video.